Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cup Interviews. My name is Jillian Robinson. I am the General Assistant here at Cup of Hemlock Theatre, and today I am joined by two marvelous artists, Ellen Denny and Emilio Vieira, and the two of them have a piece that they are going to be doing in the new year. So today we're going to talk all about that and how we can get involved. And it just gives us the opportunity to kind of be in a space together and chat art during this time. Wonderful. So before we jump in, as usual, I'm going to ask everyone, what's in your cup? So I'll start in the cup mug. Of course, I'm drinking a hot chocolate tonight. It's not homemade or anything. It's pre-mixed, so it's not fancy, but I feel like I'm living on the edge, drinking my hot chocolate today. Cheers. Ellen, what's in your cup?
I have got a homemade hot toddy here.
Ooh,
yes. And I'm very proud of my cinnamon stick. I live with a bartender, so I tend to have the materials at my disposal, and nice. But normally I'm spoiled. He's making the drink, so I had to do this one on my own.
Okay, looks good. Emilio?
And I live in an alcohol-free house with old Italian people, which I know sounds like an oxymoron, but my room is the only place where alcohol is currently, and so I have a hot toddy as well. And I can't believe that. I mean, I think I can believe it, that after all the time that Ellen and I have spent together over the last few months putting together this project, that we would both show up to this with the same drink. It feels
yeah.
right.
Not planned, though. Not planned.
Not planned. Zero planning.
Love that. Love that. You know that your brains are working together.
I hope so.
Nice. So before we dig into talking about the things you folks have been creating, why don't you just let us know a little bit about yourselves? I'll let you take the floor, maybe how you're affiliated with the theater or how you grew to know each other. Yeah.
Sure. So I am Toronto-based, and I'm a playwright and actor. I trained on the East Coast, so I've worked a lot out there, and started out doing plays and musicals, and now I've branched into a lot more writing. And I like the mix now. I'd like to keep the mix going, I think. So I'm obviously doing more writing this year than performing, given the lockdown. Mm-hmm. And I met Emilio last year when I did a adventure. I interned in production management, which was my first time really on the other side of things. And I learned a whole lot, especially about what I don't know, which is all of the amazing languages spoken backstage, speaking lighting and sound and building code. And it was amazing, but really challenging. And I met Emilio because he was an actor in that project. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Emilio?
I'm Emilio. I'm also an actor. I'm a singer as well. I started out doing mostly musical theater actually when I was in my teens. And then after going to York University, I started to take a focus on Shakespeare, which was a really big part of my early career. I spent several seasons at the Stratford Festival. I'm now back home. Ellen and I are now embarking on this project. It's my first time writing a play, and it's my first time collaborating with another person who is, already an established playwright. So it's been an incredible journey of learning and challenge, and obviously throughout the pandemic, it's been great to have a different facet of the art to explore and create in as a pivot. We've talked a lot about this idea of the COVID pivot. When your particular thing becomes unavailable to do, how do you adapt? And this project has been a good creative outlet for me, good creative practice, and obviously super, super rewarding. So, and that show that Ellen and I met on, it's just so funny to come full circle now and be like, wow, after that moment of meeting each other, where we had obviously heard of each other prior to that, coming together on this project was just sort of like that's kind of the beauty of theater. Once you meet somebody, they're always sort of part of the extended family, where a really good idea can start to grow between you, and it can turn into a project really fast. So it's been great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's let the cat out of the bag. This project that you two have been writing together. Let us know a little bit about it. What's it about? When or if there is a time that you'll be putting it up. Again, I'll let you take the floor.
Well, it's a play called February, and we started writing it, I think, in August, or kind of had the idea in August. Is that right, Emilio?
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
And it's on like a very expedited timeline, because we really wanted to make something about right now for right now. And we were inspired by the rom-com genre and felt like that was something that our hearts could handle exploring right now with where the world is at. And also that it might be something that felt really good for audiences to experience right now with all we've been through. So yeah, we were chatting on Instagram one night about how, like, what was going to happen with theater, and how outdoor theater was kind of the only option at the moment for in person. And then we got talking about how, winter theater outdoors was just going to have to be a thing. Um, and that was how this whole conversation got born. So the play it's about dating at this time. So it's about, all the ways that COVID has changed dating, and the ways it hasn't, but about two people, two millennials. It's very much our generation. These people are close to who we are and the people we're friends with, and they're trying to date 6 feet apart. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we begun by asking questions about how theater can exist in this time in person, and I remember thinking that the idea of outdoor winter theater was kind of crazy, and that I hadn't really been exposed to much of it in my life. And so we've spoken to some people who've gone and done this, like the folks at Common Boots have been doing this for a very long time, and it just started to feel more and more possible with the more incredible experienced folks we were able to speak to. And those questions then started to bleed into, like, well, what else is possible in this time, and particularly when it comes to the idea of people who are dating. How are people dating during the pandemic? What happens when people with different given circumstances during the pandemic collide? Their different life experiences, their different sort of opinions about how to move through this time. And what would happen if the two of them decided, yeah, I'm done with screens, I don't really want to try to date somebody over video chat, and let's see what happens when we meet up in person, but we have to observe a certain physical rule. And yeah, conversations just sort of, I guess, about, like, can there be a casual thing? Feels like everything kind of has to go from zero to bubble. And in the mix of those conversations, and obviously thinking about the kind of rom-com we might need right now, we started to write this play.
Nice. And it is called February. Do you plan on putting it up in February or throughout the winter months? What's the plan?
We do. So we found a beautiful little hidden courtyard in Toronto that we're so excited to be able to put this show up in. And the idea, I guess, was to, tell a story around Valentine's Day, the dead of the winter, when it's hard to meet up in person.
Yeah, February has so many connotations, right? And it felt like it's that month where we're all kind of leaning on the holiday spirit right now, I feel like. And in February, where are we going to be at? So that was where we wanted to set the piece. And so it's happening then. Yeah. We're aiming to open on Valentine's Day, and to play until the end of the first week of March.
Love that. My birthday is actually in February. I'm on the 16th, so that'll be
nice.
That'll be a treat.
Be a birthday show.
Mine is in March, and mine is currently slated for our closing night, if you can believe it.
Oh, that's so exciting.
That'll be fun.
No, I totally think it's something. Yeah, I think post holidays, there's always the January, February sort of darkness that kind of falls on everyone, I think. And with everything that's gone on this past year, I think that's going to be hitting quite hard. So I'm looking forward to this little slice of warmth just thrown into one of the colder months for sure. And that's so great. And so the two of you have been writing this piece, like you said, it's stemmed from August. So what's it been like creating during the pandemic? How has that been? Now, and what's your process been like? Have you been doing everything digitally? Have you been kind of physically meeting distance apart to collaborate? What's your writing process been like?
It's been a mix. It's been
Mhm.
a lot of video calls for sure, especially early on because we wrote a lot of big grants.
Nice.
So it was just like hours pounding out grant verbiage on video chat. But we've also been able to have some really wonderful outdoor sessions at our site, which I think is
Cool.
probably the most magical part. Yeah, we go and spend time out there and stay 6 feet apart and try out scenes like on their feet. We hold our laptops and have read stuff out loud. So the beauty of writing a piece that you're also the two actors for is that we can move in and out of those roles constantly. So
Hmm.
we can constantly take a pass at the scene, take a read of it, and feel it from that point of view, and then kind of step back out and chat about it and take another pass rewriting.
Right.
At
And
the Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, at the point that we brought our director Mari Bab on board, it became like, the three of us capable of conversations about what's happening in the script, but also how we might be able to produce it. And once we knew that the venue was secured and that's where we were going to be performing this piece, it then became about how can we really utilize what's happening in this space in the script? How can we really tailor make this play to this place, which I think sort of increases the magic of it,
Hmm.
particularly when people, by the time we will be producing it, will not have had many opportunities to meet in person at a safe space, to be able to experience something. Like Toronto Christmas Market is not happening this year. Sort of those like kinds of wintry things that I think people expect to have, and obviously are diehard about. Like go outside and embrace the cold for.
Hmm.
So yeah, for us, the online work has been great, but it's always such a pot of gold to go back to the space and get filled with more inspiration, watch it as it went from summer to fall and now into the winter, and kind of
Right.
imagine what it'll be like in February, when who knows, it might be snowing during a performance, or
Hmm.
might be windy. Like what are sort of the different opportunities and different ways that we can combat that and use it in the piece.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've really liked that. You're right. I don't think we necessarily set out for it to be a site specific piece when we initially conceived it, and it has moved slightly more in that direction, and it's been really fun to tailor make it for this space. And also just to it's a space, like both of us have worked at Canadian Stage, and it's just around the corner. So it's
Hmm.
an area we're familiar with, but we didn't even know this space existed. So I'm really excited about the aspect of, for our audience members, I think a lot of them are going to step into a space just off a familiar street and go,
Right.
wait a second, this has been here the whole time. So I think that adds to the kind of the fun of it as well.
Yeah. It's like a magical sort of like secret cavern people don't know about. Yeah.
I love a courtyard. I
That's
love
great.
a
Yeah. Love
courtyard.
a good card. So with that too, will there be like a set area and for audience members, or will it kind of be like passerbys? How is the audience going to work with this piece?
So it is enclosed in four walls. There are two. There's an entrance and an exit kind of thing.
Mhm.
Right now, the way that we've got it sort of worked out, we've definitely got like a performance space that sort of divides a certain section of the courtyard, and then actually there are these really incredible interlocking stones that just happen to be 7 feet in width. So if
Okay.
we fill every other one of those, you can come with your pod, you can come with your bubble, you can come alone, and be safely distanced from somebody who's also enjoying the live experience with you.
Wow.
So that's like it. Yeah, all of these things sort of, as we kept spending more time in the space, we were like, it's perfect. It's just perfect for a play, for a meeting space. And I think that the opportunities we've taken in the scripts to make it even more tailor made to that space have been super rewarding.
Yeah. Wow, that's another element of magic. Just the stones happen to be already properly distanced. Like that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
awesome.
one less thing to worry about on my like producer task
Yeah.
list, but
Right.
yeah.
So going back to the writing a little bit too, Amelia, you were saying, is this the first piece that you've written?
Yes, this
or
is the
been
first.
a collaborator for. So how's that been? Because Ellen, you were touching a little bit on how, writing a piece and also being in it, you kind of are able to be in the scene and also take yourself out and sort of navigate those two different roles of actor, playwright. And you saying, Ellen, you've had experience with both of those things. Emilio, how has that been for you? This being sort of the first piece you've been a playwright on as well as an actor. Is it
Well,
difficult? Is it
I
fun?
can't. I mean, it's obviously so much fun, and it's very challenging, because I think that there are we're in the unique position where when Ellen writes something and then we get a chance to read it between the two of us, we start to find authenticity in the characters' voices, and then I might take a pass at it, or I
Mhm.
might bring an idea to the table, and then we'll team write something. Like there's so many options.
Right.
For me, thinking about trying to do this alone, it's terrifying. Like I don't know how people create plays alone because there would be this point where I'm going, well, what am I missing? Or like, do I have a blindness here in particular? Am I really giving authentic voice to this person?
Right.
And so, I think Ellen and I have come to a really interesting, like teammate, sort of energy
Mhm.
where sometimes we will like just jam on an idea and try to find again authenticity in these two characters' voices and see what happens. And other times we will go away and write a whole scene by ourselves and then show it to the other and
Okay.
tweak it from there, or like yeah. So it's really interesting because as the play has evolved, there have obviously been like core things that we go, oh yeah, I want that to stay, and other things where we're like, oh, it's in the neighborhood of what we want, but it's not quite right yet, and it takes
Mhm.
like percolating time. And just having two brains on it means that there's always going to be like a sounding board.
Right.
So it's been super rewarding. I hope Ellen feels the same because
I was gonna say, I think you've been really brave about the whole thing because it's like really vulnerable to write something and then have it read and have a space where someone's actually going to give you feedback. Like
Mhm.
I remember so distinctly the first writing class I took, like with Ryan Cordatergon, maybe 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, and like he was like, you're gonna have to read out loud, like everybody, we're gonna read our work out loud. And that was really terrifying, and Emilio has just jumped right into that process. And sometimes I'll pause and be like, wait, Emilio, we're having another milestone and like we didn't even register it. Like you just heard your work read aloud for the first time by other actors, as we had some pals read us our first draft the other night, which was magical. So sometimes we forget because he's just like, nope, I'm here now, I'm doing it, I write plays now.
and it's the timeline thing because it's like I'm looking at the clock and we are 2 months away from opening, and I go, okay, well, I just have to be we both have to be brave. And I
Mhm.
will say, like, it's incredible that Ellen took me on in this project after, again, how little we had really like been creative together prior to that. I think we had a meeting in a park once very early on to just sort of like jam at big ideas.
Mhm.
And I walked away from that being like, oh my God, I have this incredible collaborator who wants to work with me, who's an idiot on this thing. And I think that we have brought our strengths together, and really they are both present in the draft that we currently have. And as it grows, I can't wait to share it with people, because Ellen
Mhm.
said this once in a meeting that we had, but there's just sort of moments where like you couldn't have written that yourself because somebody else did. Like
Right.
there's this like yeah, there's this moment where I go, oh, I need to solve something about what's happening in the play, and Ellen comes up with the brilliant solve, and it either would have taken me in a completely different direction, or a million years to do it, and
Mhm.
vice versa. But the team aspect of it has just been like it's helped to streamline the process, I think.
So
Yeah,
awesome.
it's cool. That aspect of collaborative writing is like what Emilio is speaking to is there are things in this play that just would never be in an Ellen Denny play, And so I really like that. Just when Emilio has an idea that just would have never occurred to me, or sees the world in a way that wouldn't have occurred to me, I
Mm.
do think that really enriches the work. So it's
Yeah.
been a fun adventure. Yeah.
For sure. And you're saying this, you folks have a draft. Is there like an end point to the piece, or will it kind of evolve, do you think, until you perform? Like what's your goal with the?
We'd like to get another draft in before we start rehearsals. We'd like to pass over a second draft to our wonderful director, Mari Bab. So she has time to spend with it. Mm-hmm. So we're aiming to do that, I guess, middle of January, Emilio. We've set ourselves a deadline for that. And then we've gotten a lot of feedback on our first draft in the past few weeks. We gave it a read for some folks, and then we heard it ourselves. So that's a great jumping off point as we look into draft 2. And then I absolutely think it will be evolving, because that's the thing with a piece you're performing in. Like, if a line's not working, we don't have to pause and email the playwright if they're alive, to ask about something. It's like, okay, well, let's try cutting that line. Like, I think that kind of stuff will be happening ongoing.
And largely it's been successful over Zoom as we've read it. We had like a short reading or a small invited read with some playwriting friends and close friends who gave some really great feedback. And then we also did like an earlier sort of read at the space, both of which were like, so much incredible information came out of just doing that, just practicing those things. But I think something will change about it when we finally get in front of each other, when we're like, oh, there's actual physical space to play with. You can kind of approximate that in the writing, but I think that there's so much, particularly in physical language, that we have the opportunity to explore, because people will be meeting to watch two people in the context of the pandemic try to fall in love with all of the weird restrictions and all of the like awkwardness of that playing in that space. So I just think there's going to be so much that will end up being redundant. Like I'm imagining myself with a black marker just going like, oh, I don't even really need to say that, because we're feeling it. The audience is.
That's just going to say it's going to be so real. Like I can imagine even the space being how you're describing it, as intimate as it is. Like the idea of a fourth wall to me seems like almost non-existent, because the material is going to be very, very like hitting home with everyone in the space. Because one thing I would like to ask you both too, because I think this would just be like a very interesting, fascinating journey, from August up until now. Even the pandemic itself has spiraled and pivoted and gone up 2 stages, gone back 2 stages, full lockdowns. How has that sort of impacted the writing process as well? Like, because, even just in a mental space sort of conversation, but also it being content relevant, like how did that impact the process for you both?
There's definitely a bit of, wondering if a certain thing will be relevant because of the speed at which, our various forms of adaptation to what's being thrown at us is occurring. Like, I think there'll be a greater level of fatigue, obviously. Also, my producer hat goes, will I be able to gather 10 people in this space safely? Like that's the cap at the outdoor gathering. Or if a lockdown eases, will we be able to have 25 people, which I think, we can still safely fit in our space. So all that stuff becomes kind of like, up in the air. And I think there are places right now where we know there's a spot in the script where we're like, we're going to have to be keeping a real touchstone to reality about this when we get there, because vaccine rollout is starting. That sort of thing, when you have a run in February and March, sorry, I'm touching my microphone. There's probably there's probably going to be this completely different energy about feeling like maybe we're on the way out of this thing, which is kind of will need to be reflected in the show.
I think vaccine's the big one. And we've had that flagged from the beginning. And then I think we've all been like aghast at what the last 2 weeks have brought in terms of vaccine news. So those kinds of sections will have to stay flexible and respond to the time, because we do really want the play to feel authentically like two people who are a year into this experience, which it will be, at that point, nearly a year. So we'll see. But I do think that the show, what we've built, it has enough flexibility for that. Like, I think it's going to maintain it. I think the part that stresses me out more is the producing side. Like,
right.
The restrictions constantly changing. Obviously, in a way, it's much easier to be like a scrappy little indie situation because like Emilio and I just have to be on our toes with this project. And we know at any moment the budget changes drastically, because of how many tickets we can sell. So yeah, that part I think is trickier because at the end of the day, you're trying to be 2 steps ahead of what the public health measures are going to be, because obviously we're hyper respectful of those, but also trying to plan. It's what theater people have been doing all year, like
yeah, kind of having to wear all the hats at once, at least or half or a quarter of a hat, so that you're in the know of things changing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which has its challenges, but it also has its opportunities, right? Because that's when Ellen and I go, is this possible in the space? Well, let's see if it is possible, and then let's write it in. Or instead of going, here's a play I'm being handed and I must make this thing possible in the space, we are in constant dialogue with our different hats to try to create, I think, the right thing to occur in that space. So all of that feels, I don't know, it's like totally unique to, I think, most writing situations, unless you are writing for a specific site, because you're like, I feel constantly like I'm trying to uncover the dinosaur bones. Like I'm trying to find the full shape of the thing that actually makes sense and works for that space, by mitigating all of those little dials. And I think that should we succeed at it, and I think we're already off to a really great start, it'll be something really special.
You both mentioned too that a director has been brought on to the piece. So when did that happen for this, and like how's that been, having sort of an overseer direction now to the stuff you've created?
When did that happen? Do you remember? When did we bug Mari?
Nothing is anything. The world is on fire.
Time.
I'm not sure when. Yeah.
It's been a few months, I feel like, since we reached out to Mari, someone that we both knew. I think, Emilio, you had worked with her. I had not, but the last thing basically that any of us did in person before the world shut down was Driftwood Theatre's Trafalgar 24. And all 3 of us were involved that night. And it was a whole bunch of fun. We were on different projects, but like I think I might have met Mari for the first time that night, but we were very aware of who each other were. And we just had this really nice moment where it was like, I really want to work with you. I really want to work with you. And so, yeah, she'd been on my mind, and I think I'd been on hers. And so this just felt, when I floated her name, Amelia was like, yep, like she just felt like the right match for this project. She felt like she had the right energy for this piece.
And directing is kind of a new pivot for Mari as well in the last little bit. So it just felt right in a project where we're all taking on something new for ourselves, to have someone there who has so much experience and is also ready to get scrappy and play, because we, to get on board with this project is to get on board with all of these things we can't know for sure right now.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that we have a team, we have a play, and we have a space, and everything around that will just be about improvisation and adaptation. And I think the team is really well suited to try to make that happen.
Yeah.
So we're very glad to have Mari on board. Yeah.
And we have one other team member who's signed on, and that's Gabriel Nebea, who is a wonderful actor in his own right. Yeah, and he is doing his kind of newer thing as well, as that's a bit of a theme of the project, and is going to be creating some cartoon illustrations for us that feature these 2 characters, and that tell the story before the story. So we're going to get, introduce these characters to the audience beforehand. So we're really excited. So excited to have him on board. Yeah.
We'll be unrolling some of his work through our social media and stuff leading up to the show. So we should be seeing some of his material soon.
Amazing.
We can't wait to share some of it. I've seen some early drafts, and he's an incredible artist, like just not only in the execution of the work, but in dreaming of it, and the sort of different stories we can tell about these people to help supplement the play, and also give a bit of that online exposure, which I think we need to ask as a community on a larger scale, how much more digital engagement is there expected now post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, like, what happens in the afterworld to help create accessibility for your story. So that's sort of a new thing we're diving into, and Gabo's never really done anything like that before. And as far as we know, cartoon illustrators don't really storyboard with authors about plays that haven't yet been written, and like, it's all going to be very interesting to see how it unfolds.
Nice. That's so, there's definitely the resonance of sort of there being a hybrid space post pandemic, right? Where things will go digital and live and sort of be that mixed bag. So I think that's so important that the piece will include that element of it too. But everyone is itching towards seeing live theater, being a part of live theater again. And with this piece, this being an opportunity to be in a piece like this and to have folks come see a piece like this, this is going to sound so cheesy, but what's one thing that both of you are looking forward to when showtime comes, when you're in the run, in the space? What are you looking forward to?
Whew. I feel my character talks to the audience, and I think I am both terrified and so excited to look into their eyes. Like, that will be, I think, an amazing. We have just imagined them for so long that when they're finally standing there, it's going to be very magical.
Yeah. For me, it's going to be able to share in that energetic ectoplasm that exists between people who are physically in a space together. When the pandemic set in, I had a friend of mine who is an artistic director in Winnipeg said, "How will we ever come back? Our job is literally to bring old people into the dark to cough." And and I really took that, and I was like, yeah, damn, how do we come back from this? And just the idea of being able to gather people in a space to share something energetically that doesn't have to be in this format, but is in the animal format, is in us as a herd gathering again. Some early feedback about our first draft was that, it's going to be quite powerful to ask the audience to imagine and dream of ways that these two can come together in this time, or what happens to them after the story. And that's just a given circumstance of the time. So I'm really excited to have some willing participants in the audience to like practice that with. What are we all, what is it going to be now? And it feels very much a step along the way, like it's not, we by no means are offering a solution. It is still not, the pandemic is not going to be over by the time we're closed. So it exists kind of in this really interesting transient space. And I'm just excited to know that theater found a way to live in that little bubble. We managed to make it happen in that small way.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting being artists during this time too. Like we deal with the vulnerability of stories and spaces, and there's something to, the pandemic has impacted every single person on this earth in some shape or form, right? So pieces growing through the pandemic and out of the pandemic speaking to that, that I'm just looking forward to, like you're both talking about the energy sort of in that shared space, I think is going to be multiplied by, especially with pieces like this that are so close to home for everyone. And so that gust of energy is going to be different and large for sure. Great. So, to sort of prepare for this piece that's coming in the new year, you both have a cabaret coming up soon. Do you want to talk about that and how folks can get involved with that before the holidays?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, first of all, if you're not already following us on social media, please do at February the Play. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And the Cabaret fundraiser, which will be airing on Sunday, December 13th at 7 p.m., will be running from that point for online viewing until Sunday, December 20th at 11:59 p.m. So in the interest of making it as accessible as possible, It is available to watch at 3 a.m. on Tuesday, if that's when you're available to watch it. And the tickets are donation based, so pay what you can. And there's an Eventbrite link, which I'm sure we'll put somewhere in this video and
Absolutely,
all
yep.
over our social media as well. And so yeah, click on that link, go to Eventbrite. They'll send you a link, and you can watch our show and help support the return of live theater.
And what
Tell them
you,
about who we're
yeah.
performing with.
Yes.
Tell them, Ellen.
We are so lucky to be accompanied by Bo Dixon, which honestly, I think if someone had told me before this whole pandemic that I would get to do a cabaret where Bo Dixon accompanied me, I'd be like, nope. But luckily, Emilio knows Bo very well, and he was so game to come on board and do this with us. So it's it's so fun to make music with him, and we've made the controversial decision to not have holiday music, but I think we've chosen some really fun tunes, like things that are easy listening, things that are upbeat, all across a bunch of genres. And it is rom-com themed, the evening, so we have some gags, some send-ups of fun, familiar tropes, and maybe a little taste of the show.
Oh, okay. So exciting. Yeah, and we'll post all the information and social and everything at the bottom of this video too. So look below for all that fun stuff. But yeah, Bo Dixon is such a treat. I had the opportunity of sort of stage managing, reading 2 of his plays in a play group earlier on in the pandemic, and I met him through there too. And he just has such a great energy. So
the man does everything.
Yeah, he does everything. That's so true. Great. Well, you've heard it here. Next week, from December 13th to the 20th, you can catch these 2 lovelies with Bo Dixon serenading us before the holidays. And yeah, all the information is posted below. And then we are looking so forward to our hearts being warmed with this magnificent piece you 2 have cooked up in February. And again, that space it couldn't be more magical and fitting. And I hope there's more to come from this too. Absolutely. Great. So before we sign off, I know, Amelia, you've plugged the piece's socials. Do both of you as artists want to plug your socials as well, so folks can follow you or what you have going on?
I'm on Instagram at Emilio Vieira. You can probably find that through February the Play as well. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all at the show if you should choose to come. I hope you do.
Lovely.
Yeah. And I'm on Twitter at Ellen_Denny and on Instagram at EllenRoseDenny. So
great.
Folks can find me there.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for sharing your work and your voices with me today. Again, any excuse to just be in a Zoom room with people making art, talking art, laughing and smiling is where I love to be right now. So for everyone watching, Jill. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Stay safe, have a happy holiday season, and be kind to yourselves. See you next time.